everybody, and welcome to Colorado Sports Connections, Denver Broncos pregame show with yours truly, Matt Staffiero, my good friend to the right of me, and maybe left of you, Baylor Braddock, and the man behind the glass, Grant TK. How are you, gentlemen?
I'm hanging in there, man. How are y'all?
I'm doing good, doing good. I'm not sure if Graham has his mic on. Oh, he may not be in the stage. Let's bring him in. There he
Oh,
is.
yeah, I was muted.
Yeah, you muted yourself. You're pulling a Matt. That's not good, Graham. Not good. Hey, at least I was 10 minutes early today, not rolling in 2 minutes before we're supposed to go live, like typically on a pregame show. No, I'm just kidding, gents. Real quick, before we dive too much into our Denver Broncos coverage, we have to give a big shout out to Willow Seasonings and Blends. Without them, we wouldn't be able to be here today. David Slade, our good friend, who typically does our pregame show, is out at a live event promoting Willow Seasonings and Blends. Excuse the interruption. That's the benefit of doing a Saturday show with the kiddos at home. So Dave is out promoting Willow Seasonings. I believe they are in Centennial today, correct, Graham?
I'm actually not sure. Maybe.
Yeah, I'll get the details. I believe Dave is at the Big Toolbox in Centennial today. They're going to be out there for most of the day. So if you guys want to head over to Centennial to get your Willow Seasonings and Blends and other wonderful products over at the Big Toolbox, head over there and I can get you guys that address here shortly. All right, Baylor, let's talk Broncos.
Let's do it.
How are you feeling?
I feel good about this game. For me, there is no real loss in this situation. This is a game 3 games ago I expected us to lose. And if we do lose this game and run the table, I still like our odds of getting into the playoffs. But what I want to see from this game is how we stack up against a team that is particularly strong against our weakness in the run game.
Absolutely. And as I would say, my fantasy team knows all about Detroit's strengths. Is my fantasy team is currently built on the backs of the Detroit Lions. All of these weaknesses we kind of hit on last week when we had our show, the running game, with Montgomery and Gibbs, as well as Sam Laporta. They tend to be what our Broncos defense has the hardest time containing, as you just mentioned. So it's going to be interesting to see how we're able to stop a young tight end. We've struggled with that. I think the Broncos have struggled with tight ends probably about as long as you and I have both been alive, Baylor. I'm hitting 30 next year, and I don't think there's been a year the Broncos defense has contained a tight end consistently.
No.
At least, it's bad.
My whole life.
That's what
it's always been a problem.
It has been no matter what defensive coordinator, no matter what head coach, it's been the one consistency that's lasted longer than our consecutive seasons without playoffs. So I guess there's that to be happy about. It could be worse, right?
Yeah, I really just, like you said, this team has a lot of strengths in areas that we are particularly weak. However, they've been susceptible to turnovers lately, and we all know that the Broncos' bread and butter in this 6-1 streak has been the turnovers. For me, that's 100% the most important stat for me in deciding who's going to win this game is that turnover differential. Both of these teams struggle immensely when they are behind in the turnover battle. And, both of these teams benefit a lot when their teams protect the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen what happens when Denver can control that turnover battle 5-1. Now 6-1, correct? My math's off. We've seen how wonderful it is when we're able to control the turnover game. It's going to be interesting to see how Detroit has prepared for this game. They are a team that plays somewhat similar to Denver offensively. They really trust their run game. It's a lot of short passing game, a lot of not necessarily dink and dunk, but a lot of creative behind the line of scrimmage passes, getting the running backs involved, primarily Jahmyr Gibbs in those situations. Um, Out of the three-headed monster, or I guess you would consider this a four-headed beast in Detroit. They got Amon-Ra St. Brown, they got Sam Laporta, David Montgomery, and Jahmyr Gibbs. Is there we kind of hit on Laporta. Is there another name that has you more concerned than, let's say, Laporta, or is Laporta the biggest guy you're concerned about today?
Dan Campbell is the biggest concern I have today. The way he calls games, he hangs it all out there. He doesn't care. Detroit is particularly good after losses. They haven't lost 2 games in a row since October of last year. And they lost last week. They lost poorly last week to a divisional opponent, and they're going to be pissed, and they're going to be at home. And Dan Campbell has done everything in his power to get his team hyped up for this game. Honestly, I'm not stressed about the weapons because it doesn't matter if you're a no-name running back or the best running back in the league, you can put up 150 on the Broncos. Like that's something we've just dealt with. So don't worry about that. Amon-Ra St. Brown is an incredible talent. We do have between our corners are gonna he's gonna get a few good catches. They like the deep ball, but really with Amon-Ra, it's got to be the same with Patrick Surtain. Just like lock him down, and when he's in that slot, he gets some help from over the top. And if that's all they really have between him and Sam Laporta, I don't have any answers for Sam. So I guess probably, but again, if you've got, I don't know, it's tricky. You said there's so many things you got to stop, but
yeah,
that's
an
why I say
incredibly difficult team to play.
The emphasis is for me is Dan Campbell and how he's going to call this game. The Lions love gadget plays. The Lions love running trick plays, and they have the talent to do so, and they'll do it on their own 25-yard line on a 4th and 12, because that's how Dan Campbell coaches. So I think the biggest thing for the Broncos is to try to expect those plays, those crazy plays on the punts. Be super diligent about your coverages on punts, on field goals, watch for fakes, be ready for them to be going for it on 4th down a lot if they're down. Because if you can contain those plays and keep the game close, because that's how they bust games open. You think you have them, and then all of a sudden they fake a punt on you, and they've got a brand new set of downs, and you've lost your morale. So I think just don't let anything crazy happen. Try to keep the game in front of you. Try to keep it simple. The Lions score points a lot more than the Broncos do, and if the Lions put up 30 points, the Broncos are not going to win this game. So we really got to keep their scoring to a minimum.
Yeah, absolutely. Sticking on the defensive side of the ball, definitely we do have a couple injuries that have popped up. We know that Nick Bonito has been ruled out of this game, which is going to be a big factor in I don't want to call it inconsistent pass rush, but I would say maybe an inexperienced pass rush. And he was proving to be kind of that separating himself from the group in terms of pressures and sacks. And he's had a really great sophomore season. So I'm really bummed to not see him on the field today. The other injury being PJ Locke. It sounds like he's going to play today. They're going to test it out pregame, but the expectation is that he will play, which I definitely think is a great thing. Is the separation in talent between him and Delarian Turner-Yell, I feel is pretty significant, especially in coverage. So it's going to be, I'm excited to see how PJ Locke gets his first opportunity to match up against another young rising star in Laporta, and we'll see how that turns out. But my biggest concern is how do you create, pressure on Jared Goff? We've seen not Vic Fangio, Vance Joseph sometimes lack creativity when it comes to his blitzes. Sometimes he just doesn't call it. Sometimes he's become predictable. How do you, I guess, mask the loss of Benito today? How do you get that pressure? Because Jared Goff, if with time given, he's proven time and time again over the last 2 seasons, he can pick your defense apart if he's getting the time to.
So here's the thing with Jared Goff and why in this specific matchup, I'm not terribly worried about the loss of Nick Benito. Jared Goff is I think 7th in the league in release time in the pocket. I think it's like 2.7 seconds or something like that. That's crazy. And the Broncos only get real pressure when they bring blitzes. The Broncos, for the life of them, cannot get pressure with 4 people unless they have that 5th guy on the line to, sometimes confuse the defense on which one's going to drop back. But Jared Goff likes to take what the defense gives him quickly. So I think it's going to be one of those games where where tackling is going to be the most important part of containing the Lions, both obviously for the run game, but as well for the receiving game. Both Amon-Ra and Laporta are incredible after the catch. Both of them have the potential to turn a 5-10 yard pass into a 30-40 yard touchdown. And that's going to be important, is making sure that the tackling is clean. And that's something the Broncos have honestly struggled with all year, has been tackling cleanly.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back down to David Montgomery. I believe he's got 10 touchdowns on the season. The dude's a bowling ball. We've seen him break massive runs this season. He doesn't go down easy. It doesn't help when you are the NFL leader in missed tackles. So proper technique needed, I would hope, was emphasized all week by Vance Joseph and his defensive staff. Alex Singleton, who I'd have to double check, but I believe he was the NFL leader in missed tackles a couple weeks ago. That's never a tag you want to carry. He rebounded last week in LA from his terrible game in Houston. He had an out of his mind game last week in Los Angeles. So I'm hoping he can carry that momentum today, because it starts at that line. I mean, we're playing a team. I mean, like you said, it doesn't matter if it's a first, second, or third string back. Any back has the potential to get 150 yards. And it really starts after that first line of defense. It gets muddled. That's your first guys who's got to step up and make a play. We need those proper techniques. And it starts with Alex Singleton. I mean, he kind of took the reins from Josie Jewell this season, and he's been inconsistent, but he had a really great game last week. I just hope he can build off of it this week.
Yeah, the defense's role in this game is going to be the most important, because they have to keep this game winnable for the offense. We can absolutely say that Russ needs to go out there, and the offense needs to start winning us some games. It's not against the Lions. It can't be against. You can't ask this offense to win a shootout against the Lions. It's just not who they
Absolutely.
are.
No.
So it's going to be huge on the defense, which again, it sounds unfair because they've been doing their part the last few weeks, but it's going to be huge that they, the big thing that they need to limit is, I believe that this will be a 1 possession game in the 4th quarter if the defense can do this. If they can limit, like I said, those gadget plays and trick plays and stuff, if they cannot fall to those, and if they can limit the large after the catch passing plays, if you can manage those 2 things on defense, they're still going to move the ball, they're still going to run it all over you, but it's not going to be too much for your offense to overcome. And if you can get a couple turnovers, it's going to be right there for you to take, just like it has been the last 7 weeks. Even against the Texans, remember, that game was right there.
So it comes back to, I think, what we talked about that week following the Texans game. It sticks to the same kind of build or mindset that we've seen follow from pretty much the Vic Fangio era, kind of all the way through, especially defensively. We've been stuck in this bend but don't break mentality. And it sounds like today the defense has to stick tried and true to that. and it's okay to live and die within the 20s. Just keep them out of the end zone. That's essentially what you're preaching, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm preaching. That's how you beat Buffalo. That's how you kept the game close against the Texans. I mean, that Texans game, exactly, Ty. This one is going to be close. That Texans game was the exact 31-10. I hope not.
Well,
That's
he's saying DB for Denver Broncos for life
yeah,
ahead. Thank you, real quick, just because we went to comments,
yeah,
might as well say hi really quick to them.
Yeah, you're good.
We got Jesse Strasser coming in saying hi. SD Armand saying Denver Broncos for life. He's got the 31-10 prediction. Ty Berries we just saw. This one's going to be close. We'll hit our predictions closer to the end. But thank you guys for hopping on. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe on Facebook. We're on YouTube. We're everywhere you can find social media. So be sure to give us a like and turn the notifications on so you know when any of our platforms or any of our teams are going live. We got great coverage all over the place. Bam. There's our plug. Baylor, continue.
31, just real quick, the 31-10. Unfortunately, if that's the score, it's going to be a Lions 31-10. This is a very winnable.
Where's the faith, Baylor?
No, I'm not saying. I am not saying this is a game that the Broncos should already write off as a loss. I'm just saying that if any team is scoring 31 points in this game, it's going to be the Lions. Doesn't mean they are, and that's what I'm saying. The key to this game is keeping that score. You can't let them score more than like 24. You really can't.
That's the point threshold for you. 24 is make or break.
And that's what we did in the Texans game. How many of those, like if all of those field goals to start, it would have been, if all of those field goals were touchdowns, it would have been Dolphins 2.0. But it wasn't because, like you said, against these better teams, you have to bend. Bending is okay when you have an offense that can put up some sort of points. But against those weakling teams that we have coming up, I don't want to see any bending. But bending against the Lions is all right.
Yeah, I mean, essentially what you're preaching is this is the same exact formula that has kept the Broncos close to Kansas City for several of our matchups, or recent matchups during this streak. The Broncos haven't been blown out in any of their losses up until our most recent win. It's been that bend but don't break mentality on defense and keep it ugly and keep it nasty.
Give yourself a chance.
Yeah, to where your offense can score 10 field goals and you magically win. It's just that bend but don't break mentality. I agree. I do think that has to be the mindset. I don't like that mindset to as your mission statement. As any NFL franchise probably doesn't really love that mission statement, but it is the identity I think that the Denver Broncos have adopted, and they found a way later or from middle of the season to now to really buy into that mentality. It's got their confidence riding high. They took an L, and we've seen them come back and lay the smack down on a beaten down and very confused Chargers team, which we'll probably have to get to talk about a little bit at some point, either today or even next week, because there's been so many developments out of there. Brandon Staley and Tom Telesco both fired yesterday. I mean, I don't know if we're cheering. We should be like booing. No, keep them.
No, I'm an NFL fan, and there's too much bad football. I hate wasted potential in the NFL and any pro sports league, really. And LA, that whole franchise has been a bunch of wasted potential.
Absolutely.
So that's why, as a football fan, everyone should be cheering because nobody should want to watch a Brandon Staley coached game ever
again.
However, yes, as a Broncos fan, it makes me scared that the potential of Bill Belichick ending up in my division and having Andy Reid with Patrick Mahomes, Bill Belichick with Justin Herbert in our division doesn't sound good.
Yeah, that then there has been rumor been floating around, but I just don't think Bill will come to LA. I just don't think that's his scene. I don't think that's the way they go. I think if there's a guy that LA is going to come after, and he was a name that was heavily pursued last offseason, we're playing against him today, and that's Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, who's been credited for the resurgence of Jared Goff's career after McVay pretty much tossed him aside and said, we want Matthew Stafford. And we've seen how well that's worked. We've seen this similar model with the Colts definitely wanting to pursue a coach that was going to fit the guy they had on their board. in Anthony Richardson. So it's going to be interesting to see, where the Chargers go at head coach. I'm more interested actually where they're going to go at GM. Are they going to go, full balls to the wall to find a guy that has the John Lynch-esque to him, a guy that has the grit to turn the bad luck around? Because we always talk about it. The Chargers are going to Charger. When does that mentality stop? But unfortunately, I don't know if it ever will with their current ownership situation. I don't know if you've followed that at all, Baylor, but it's kind of a messy situation with the Spanos family. So we won't dive too much into that because I don't really feel like talking too much about
That's a whole rabbit hole.
Yeah. But Trevor coming in here saying had to get rid of Staley. Herbert has been carrying the Chargers since Staley was hired. He probably would have been gone sooner if not for Herbert. I completely agree.
Staley owes Herbert some of that cash he gets for for hanging
Some
around.
of his severance pay.
The fact that despite this horrible start to this season, that Staley is still only like one game under 500 in San Diego blows my mind.
No, absolutely. I don't want to be credited as the Herbert apologist, but it is a team sport. Herbert has put up, and that offense has put up actually relatively good numbers consistently.
Never had
through Staley's thing, but there's this thing called you can't, you can score as many points as you want, but you can't allow more points. And we've seen it time and time again where Staley's defenses come crashing down. No one will ever forget the Chargers-Jaguar playoff game when you're up by, what was it, 20-some, 23,
29?
Yeah, it's crazy amount of points they were up.
But the thing is about that too. Sorry, I know we should. This is
it's okay. Let's go. We're down it. We're going.
But I just want to say, with. Oh man, I lost it.
It'll fly back to you. Yeah. Trevor's coming in once more saying Dan Campbell could be a name on the Chargers' radar. Would make sense with how bad the defense has been. It's going to be truly an interesting situation to watch. Dan Campbell was highly connected to the Denver Broncos for 2 consecutive seasons. It'd be interesting to see what that would look like. Dan Campbell actually has a really good relationship with a few of the guys that we were hoping to get paired with Russ. One that he's down there with him right now, and I'm drawing a blank on his name, Schottenheimer. And then he's got a great relationship with a few other Seahawks guys. I'm drawing a blank on their names. Maybe you'll remember. Longtime Seahawks offensive coordinator, pretty much helped put Russ on the map. It's going to come to me. It's going to come to me after the show. I'm just drawing a blank on his name. So, did Graham look it up?
I just remembered my So my thing before was Brandon Staley got a head coaching job with the Chargers and was gifted the keys to that car because he was the defensive coordinator of the Rams the year they won the Super Bowl. And again, we do the Tom Brady or Bill Belichick thing all the time. Well, is it Brandon Staley or is it Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey? Well, I think we know the answer to that one.
Yeah. Darrell Bevel was the gentleman's name I was looking for. That's who I was thinking of. That's the guy who was with Russ for the early part of his career through the 2013 and I believe and the appearance against New England. Anyways, Chargers, going to be interesting to watch and see what happens. It's always interesting to see when a divisional opponent, is looking for a new head coach and new GM. So it'll be interesting to see what the identity of the Chargers becomes as we prepare to this next phase of, I guess, truly figuring out what the Broncos' identity is, because like I said, we've adapted the bend but don't break mentality for this season. I don't think that is what they would like to make as their permanent mainstay through the rest of Russell's tenure. I think they want to find a way to turn this team into that perennial playoff contender, and it'll be interesting to see how that adapts. Brian Schottenheimer is one of them, Trevor, and then it was Darrell Bevels, who Dan Quinn I was mentioning was connected to, real quick, just to hop on that comment. Anyways, circle back, resurface, refocus. Went down the Charger rabbit hole, and now let's go back to talking Broncos and Lions pregame. We've got a few hours to kick off. As one of our friends here had mentioned, the Bengals are down 17-3, I believe, currently to the Minnesota Vikings, helping this playoff push, which could make today's game so much more important. And being able to get that game ahead, the Bengals are currently ahead of Denver in the playoff seeding.
We want
Yeah,
the Steelers to win this afternoon.
Yes.
Because both Colts and Steelers are ahead of us. However, Colts' schedule is a cakewalk the rest of the year, and there's a good chance they don't lose another game. However, the Steelers are probably going to lose more games. So if they can take the win now, that would be ideal rather than give it to the Colts and have the Colts win out, because the Colts are probably going to win out if they don't lose today.
It's the Broncos' biggest favor right now, if we're talking playoffs. Yes, we're talking playoffs for the first time in a long time, is to essentially win out. Well, that is an attainable goal in some sense. Is it reasonable? And I'm not sure that it is. It's within reach, but I just don't know if we could get over this hump today. And in Detroit, it's a primetime game. It's out east. All the pressure's on. We've seen how ugly this gets for Denver each time the pressure's on in prime time, especially when we're playing. Well, this is more of a Midwest team, I would say, not an Eastern team. But anyways, prime time game, a lot of pressure, a lot of things riding on it. They're going to have this whole day to sit there and watch two opponents, AFC opponents, either kind of set the seating of what they need to do for tonight, so it's going to be interesting to see how Sean Payton rallies his guys today, how Russell Wilson handles this pressure in a Denver Broncos uniform.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this turns out to be, like I said, a Texans-like loss. Right there, the whole game comes down to the wire, comes down to the last couple plays of the game. And that's fine. If that's how it goes, I'm totally fine with that. But that's your last little bit of leash. And that's fine because you have the Chargers, the Patriots, and the Raiders left. So it's all winnable stuff. But it would be really nice to just be able to win out and secure that playoff spot for sure, rather than leaving any of it up to chance. So.
No, absolutely. So we focused a ton on the Broncos and what they should do defensively, and we've touched a little bit on what the offense should kind of model its game after and what we should expect. But let's look at it this way: offensively, who has to be the guy to step up, or is there a position group that has to step up and be consistent the entire time? Where does it start for you? If any name outside of Russell Wilson, because we all know it lives and dies by the quarterback, but where do you need to see the consistency, or where do you need to see that great game? Who is it? What group is it? And what do you need to see from them?
If Jerry Jeudy drops another ball, I might actually lose it. If he has a good game, this game could very likely be a Broncos win if Jerry Jeudy actually has a good game. There's been enough noise around it for Russ to know that Jerry Jeudy gets open. However, there's also been enough noise around Jerry Jeudy's drops that he needs to be better there. And if Jerry Jeudy can step up and be a second weapon for Russell Wilson, so that it's not just Courtland Sutton out there trying to catch passes, I think that's going to be huge.
And no, absolutely. And for me, Trevor actually hits mine right on the head here. Offensive line, it starts up front. Gonna need the offense to be balanced. Absolutely. It does start with the offensive line, and where I need to see them be consistent today is to continue to open up holes for Javonte Williams to continue, and Samaje Perine and our stable of running backs to be able to continue to push their agenda because we've seen when the run game is ineffective and they've lost that play action, we've seen defenses time after time this season get creative, and this offensive line goes from above average to drastically below average without that run game. And when they're having to go strictly to pass pro, this entire offense kind of falls apart. What falls apart when they're strictly relying on pass to be their primary weapon. So I definitely think I agree with Trevor. This has to be a balanced approach, and it starts with opening up those running lanes, for me at least.
75% of our pass protection is the threat of the run.
Yeah, I think you're even being nice there. I might even say 85.
Well, then we wouldn't be giving the people on the line that have played well.
Yeah, I get that.
There's a few guys on there that have really stepped up, and I've been really impressed with. But unfortunately, offensive line is kind of like a chain, and you're only as strong as your weakest link.
And we know who that is.
Maybe.
No, we know it's on the right side, right? Anyways, but yeah, definitely, I think it lives and dies in the trenches for us today. When Russ gets that extra pressure on him, we see him lose. It's hard because Russ is different every week. It feels like sometimes it feels like he's too conservative. Sometimes it feels like he's forced to be too aggressive. And then there's the just right. It's almost like Goldilocks and the Three Little Bears, and you're just not sure which porridge you're getting today. But it just starts with how much support he's getting, which leads to other concerns when it comes to talking Russ. But we had a whole hour to talk about that last week, so we won't go too much into it. But you got to keep the pressure off of him this week, and the best way to do that is run the ball. Does Javonte have a breakout game today? Because we've been waiting for he's had really good games, but not take over the game type of game that we'd seen before the injury. Is this maybe today?
I don't know why it would be.
You don't think it could be?
I don't know. Nothing about this game screams to me Javonte is going to pop off. I mean, everything that I know about this is they're going to continue to rotate him with Pirine for pass pro and option plays. I don't know. I don't feel like Javonte's had a really consistent role in this offense, and I don't really necessarily think that's his fault. The dude does better with bulk, and we have a stable of talented backs, so he's not going to get the bulk that a running back like Javonte needs to get really hot.
So with that said, you feel that this running back by committee and the current snap splits may be hindering his success in being as effective as he could be?
I do, but I don't necessarily think that that's wrong for the team, if that makes sense. I think it's important to have Javonte having an average season, Pirine having a good season, and whenever McLaughlin comes in, finding a way to get in the end zone here and there. I think it's more important to have all three backs playing at a solid level than having one eating up all of the carries, because if something happens to one of them, then you're going to have to change your plan.
No, absolutely.
I think this is a really safe way to go about it, because if either one of them go down, then your obvious plan. But if you start giving Javonte all of the snaps and all of the carries, if he goes down, all of a sudden you have to completely rewrite your offense.
Fair. I guess I'll play devil's advocate here a little bit, because we've heard this talked about quite a bit, especially when Jaleel McLaughlin's on the field. It's almost a guarantee that he's going to get the ball. I think it's somewhere in the high 70s % chance he's going to get the ball. Do you think it's somewhat telling when Samaje Perine's now on the field that it's going to be a passing situation? So do you think that with this current split is somewhat maybe given some predictability to what the offense may or may not be doing?
It absolutely is, but I would rather give away the predictability and have higher execution than try to confuse them and ask somebody to do something they're not good at.
No, absolutely.
No, that's what I'm saying. I agree 100%. No, yes, you're right. It's a tell, but the way this team is constructed, that's fine. I mean, the whole world should know what the Broncos are going to do. If Pirine's on the field, it's a passing play. If Javonte's on the field,
I mean, P. Ryan has been an efficient runner, and he did well in Cincinnati as a runner. He's good in pass pro. He's good in the receiving game. He's more of your all-around kind of guy, more of a third down back. I mean, would you say it would be a bad idea to maybe give him more reps in terms of carries?
Um,
And maybe
yes.
take some snaps off of McLaughlin.
Yeah, because then you're putting more eggs in that basket and you're asking P. Ryan to do something he's good at. Yes, he's good. But if you're gonna hand the ball off on 2nd and 3 to get a first down, would you rather hand it to P. Ryan or Javante?
Fair point.
I mean, yeah, people have their roles, and the thing is, they're all good backs. That's the thing. They're all good backs, but they all specialize in something. And when you have 3 running backs with 3 specialties, yeah, you're gonna kind of have a tell there. But I'll quote a little bit of Coach Prime here and say, doesn't matter if you know what I'm calling, you still have to stop it. And that's the thing when it comes to running backs, is the style of play a running back plays is pretty much, yeah, we know you're going to run it, but you still got to stop me. And that's how Javante plays, 3rd and 1, we're going to hand the ball to him. You still have to stop him, so that's why I don't think it's a big issue. I think the running back room is somewhere where we could save salary cap in the future. If we have backs this talented, we should maybe not be carrying this many talented backs that we're going to have to pay. And if that's the case, then yeah, then you can start throwing in some plays with other people, give P. Ryan some more carries, because then you're not, but I think it would be dumb to not use the talent we have. And if the only way you can do that is broadcasting a little bit of what you're trying to do, I think that's fine.
Yeah. And I think you actually put up a really good point here in terms of I hate this term, especially when we start talking basketball and Nuggets, NBA, load management. But it's a little bit different. I mean, we've seen a good surge of running backs across the league, Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor. I mean, these guys are the cream of the crop guys, but they're demanding, hey, we want this and that. And I think with this load management, as long as it remains effective, it eliminates that, I guess, stardom profile to demand more. So you may essentially get Javante significantly cheaper on a resign than what you would have if he was that dominant number 1 back.
Well, that and exactly that. And you know what? If Samaje Perine's like, look, dude, all of the metrics say if you give me more snaps, I'll be dope. So pay me more money and give me more snaps. You can just be like, okay, well, go do that for another team.
Absolutely.
We're not saying that's not true. We're just saying that's not what we need. That's not what we're trying to do, because as soon as we lose one of the 3, we're down to 2, and they'll easily, all 3 of those backs can split the backfield evenly. All 3 of those backs could easily handle half a workload, no problem. And that's one of the few positions that we actually have really nice depth at right now.
Absolutely.
And, again, this is Sean Payton trying to figure out what he has, and this isn't his team yet, but Sean Payton as an offensive guy, you bet he wants to see all of these guys every game, and he wants to try to get them involved as he can.
So no, absolutely. I think you've alluded to a point that I was going to take. Sean Payton's been very, very, very vocal about, hey, that this is kind of what, not necessarily an evaluation here, but this is only phase 1. I don't even have my guys here yet. I've gotten a small percentage of guys that are my guys here. So it'll be interesting to see who else fits in that mold of a Sean Payton guy. But you also kind of alluded to another question that I had. You said Sean Payton wants to see what, pretty much what all of these guys got. I want to transition that to a wide receiver room because we have had Jerry Jeudy, who has struggled significantly. You've got a high draft pick in Marvin Mims. Why do you think we haven't seen the transition to maybe seeing Marvin Mims maybe more in that adapt into that role? I know the simple answer is going to be, well, you just picked up Jerry Jeudy's option. You've got a fully guaranteed contract next year. But what do you think the hesitation to pull the trigger to get Mims more reps in that role is?
So the hesitation, so it's tricky, because if this was another head coach other than Sean Payton, I'd pretty much say that that it would be a saving face thing, because if Jerry Jeudy isn't playing and the dude you just drafted in the 3rd round is playing better than your 4th-year wideout that was a first-round pick, it doesn't look good on the people who picked Jerry Jeudy. And that maybe
Well, yeah, they're no longer here, right? Yeah, no, they're no longer here.
George Payton is
Was
here.
he here? Was he here for Jerry Jeudy? Was that year 1? No, I thought Patrick Surtain was his first pick as a Broncos GM.
Oh, well, but okay. Well, if that's the case, then I mean,
Get the hell out of
my
here,
point,
Jerry.
my,
I'm just kidding.
my point on the it was mute. I was about to say that Sean Payton invalidates this point anyway, because Sean Payton's not the type of guy that would be bullied by a GM, because he is a
Absolutely.
GM. So that's what I'm saying. And if this was another situation, I'd probably say it'd have something to do with the front office, but this is probably something to do with Sean Payton. I think Sean Payton wants to get rid of Jerry Jeudy. I really think he does. And I think that the more he plays Jerry Jeudy, the more Jerry Jeudy exposes himself, and the more likely he's going to get traded in the offseason. And you know, what does Sean Payton have to lose? Throw it at him, Russ. If he drops it, he's gone. If he catches it, dope, he caught it.
I mean, it is kind of hey, it is what it is. Yeah.
That's my
Yeah.
suspicion. Obviously, I have no proof, or I haven't heard anything that says
No,
that Sean
absolutely.
Payton's on bad terms, but that's the only thing that makes sense to me, because like you said, it makes absolutely zero sense that you have such a young talent in Marvin Mims, who had 2 catches for like 100 yards in each of his first 2 games and a punt return touchdown. He's got incredible. He's probably the most explosive player on the team, on the offense, other than Jaleel McLaughlin. There's just, this offense is lacking explosion, and the 2 players that have it get almost no snaps ever. So I don't know what Sean's doing. If I had to take a guess, this is really Sean kicking the tires on Jerry Jeudy as much as he can to make sure that he's like, you really got nothing in there, do you? Before he dumps him on the curb in the offseason.
Yeah, so he's giving him every opportunity to succeed before ripping the Band-Aid off.
But at the same time, if nothing comes out of it, there's going to be zero sympathy. That's going to be like, nah, dude, I gave you every chance in the world. You're gone.
Yeah, I mean, one could argue maybe that has already somewhat happened too. I mean, this is just the new regimen doing their due diligence.
Yeah, and you can also see from Sean Payton's point of view, if he really thought that Nathaniel Hackett's coaching job was the worst he'd ever seen in NFL history, he's not going to hold a single player on that team accountable for anything unless it's under him. However, if he's failing in his system, and Sean Payton, being the narcissist that he is, thinks his way is the correct way, if you can't succeed in his system, yeah, you're not going to be in his graces at all. And I think Jerry, unless he has a miraculous turnaround in these next 4 games, is not going to be with us next year.
Interesting. Yeah, I do agree with you. I do think that is a name that we do see at least floated around again. I think said that he's being made available. So maybe a big game or a big close of the season changes that direction. Like you said, there's not really anything to lose if he does well. Either it only helps his stock to move him on somewhere else, or gives you the confidence that you can believe in him for yet another season at that fully guaranteed contract for the 5th-year option. So we've talked a lot of, we've talked about offense, we talked about defense. If you had a key to victory today, before we give our predictions, what would be your key to victory for the Denver Broncos?
I don't want to say between the 20s, because we already talked about that. But
I mean, that might, if that is
no,
the
I think
lifeline.
I really do think that the absolute most important statistic is winning that turnover battle. I don't think it needs to be huge. I do not think you need to win at 3-0, but I think the offense needs to not turn the ball over. You cannot give Detroit free possessions. You cannot give Detroit free possessions. And at the same time, Detroit's going to score a lot of points, so the defense does need to find a way to take the ball away once or twice to give Denver a few more scoring opportunities. So turnover margin is probably going to be the most important factor for me.
Yeah, two Jerry Judy comments. Feel free to chime in. I'll throw my 2 cents on them really quick. First one, Kenny Kirkpatrick's coming in from K&K Sports Show. Please check out Kenny and K&K. They're on Facebook. I believe they're on YouTube. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kenny. Over at the K&K Sports Show, they've got Giant shows, Bronco shows, Bet show. They have a plethora of shows going on. Great crew and great people to work with. But he's coming in saying, good luck tonight, fellas. Quick comment and question. One of my co-hosts and best friends is a huge Lions fan, says Lions secondary is banged up and afraid of some downfield throws. Could this be the game Judy breaks out? I mean, the guy is getting open. The
Nope.
last part of that statement is completely true, though. He is open, but you got to catch the ball.
Nobody ever, no Jerry Judy, even the biggest Jerry Judy hater on the planet, nobody says that Jerry Judy doesn't get open.
No, he's wide open.
Dude cannot catch.
Dude is some of the
3 balls hit him
Electric
in the
footwork.
hands, one of which was in the end zone and could have been a touchdown. And all of them ended up being incomplete passes.
Yeah,
It's on him. It's not about the defense that he's playing. It doesn't matter. He gets open against everybody. Every single game this year, I've seen Twitter blowing up being like, Russ isn't throwing to Jerry because look, he was wide open. Every single game this year, doesn't matter who the defense is. Jerry's an incredible route runner. He needs to catch the ball. It's on him. Whether he breaks out or not, it's on him.
Yeah, and I think at this stage it's kind of hard because now we're hitting year 4. You're a high value. You are an incredibly high value draft pick. I don't know if we should be talking like, hey, when are you going to break out at this point? I think just when are you going to live up to your potential is maybe the better way to word this, because he could have 200 yards today and 2 touchdowns, but can he do it again? And that's the question you have to ask
He
yourself.
unfortunately will never live up to his potential
No.
as number 1 pick out of Alabama. However, that doesn't mean he can't have a really successful NFL career.
No, absolutely.
But you cannot still be talked about as when is your breakout season going to come?
Not at this stage,
And 4 years in and still live up to the hype of being a first-round talent. First-round talents don't take 4 years to break out. Second or third rounds, absolutely. Yeah, they do. Sometimes it does take second or third round talents a few years to catch on, but not first round talent.
Absolutely. And Trevor's coming here again saying if Sean Payton wanted to move on from Judy, I think he would have moved him at the deadline. I don't think it's a question of that. If he wanted to move on at the deadline, I think he wanted to exasperate all options before moving guys off this team.
He didn't have enough time yet. Sean Payton's only had Jerry Judy in his system for a few weeks, and the trade deadline was right as he felt like we were turning it around. It'd be incredibly unfair of Sean Payton to ditch Jerry Judy at the trade deadline right as the offense was starting to show some semblance of functionality. And yes, hindsight, we would love to go back now and trade Jerry Judy, but no, at the time that wouldn't have been a smart move unless you were selling off the whole team.
Yeah, and Sean Payton has lived and died by he believed that this was a turning point for them right here around the deadline. And just to allude right back to what you're saying, I don't think the evaluation process was long enough to see where Jerry was at. And I mean, let's say even if he really was like, you know what, I've seen it, I don't like it. If the value wasn't there, let's say you're getting a 4th round pick, I don't think you would trade Jerry Judy for a 4th round pick when you feel things are going to be turning around, or a 5th round pick. Rumor is they wanted a 3rd and a 5th. No one wanted to give him that. Well, it is what it is. Maybe he wanted to see like, hey, this is what this dude's really worth. He had to really just get that evaluation in, and he had to see him for the full. I think he wanted to see a full season of Jerry Judy.
No, absolutely.
I think he wanted to see a full season of everyone. I think there's actually Jerry Judy's just one name that we're kind of floating around frequently, but I think there's actually going to be several names, and maybe even some familiar faces that have been here for a while be moved on, because once again, Sean Payton wants Sean Payton guys, and maybe after a full year, they just don't fit the mold of what he's looking for. They may be talented, they may have years, they may have some money tied to them. It's going to be interesting to see what this does, what this team looks like another year into Sean Payton, another offseason into Sean Payton. But
And the last thing I want to add to that Sean Payton stuff before we wrap up here is Sean Payton at the start of the season said he would be pissed if this team didn't make the playoffs. And I think all of us laughed at that and we're like, there's no way. And then we started 1-5 and we're like, this dude was talking something crazy, right? Right now, if I told you the Broncos aren't going to make the playoffs, would you also be pissed off?
probably.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And I think I should apologize, and I'll do it publicly to Sean Payton for laughing at him for thinking that this is a playoff caliber team. And he maintained that belief even when they were 1-5. That's why he stood pat, and I will give him all of the props in the world. I've been extremely critical of him since he came here, and I think I have the right to because he's not a rookie head coach. He came in here with his whole band playing as loud as they could, and he's been doing pretty good. And the fact that he's not being considered for coach of the year, I think, is a shame.
Well, there's still a few weeks left and a whole playoff.
Just considered. Like, I don't think he should win, but like when you look at like the coaches that are being considered, he should at least be on the bottom of the list because this turnaround is incredible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, it's going to be interesting. Trevor's coming in saying he heard that they had a third for Judy, but declined it. I think Payne wants to win now and not interested in rebuild. Judy's upside is worth the risk down the stretch. Yes and no, really quick, just to kind of round out the Judy thing. Judy's going to be heading into a final year and that fully guaranteed contract. Denver is going to look at ways to try to move things around. Moving one player doesn't signal that you're in a rebuild, especially if the player hasn't lived up to their potential or even come close. Moving several players doesn't necessarily mean it's a rebuild. It could just be you want improvements or you want someone you feel is a better fit to your scheme. Lloyd Cushenberry is a perfect example. Heading into a contract year, money's tight. He's going to probably command a decent amount because of how much he's grown in this last year. He may be another name that we don't see here next year. It's not a trade, but we may have to see him walk out the door to fit a guy that Sean Payton wants or he's been priced out. It's just going to be interesting to see some of these names, especially ones on closer to expiring deals, who's moved and who's replaced. So we'll have to see. I think it's too early to tell. I think he believed in his team at the deadline and he wanted to evaluate what this team was, like we've said a few times now. And it's a good thing he decided to stand pat and buy into some of the players that maybe were rumored to go somewhere else. But going back to this Detroit game really quick, my quick key to the game, as basic as it is, it starts with David Montgomery for me. The dude's going to have a day. He's going to have a game, but you have to find a way just to keep him out of the end zone. Tackle, it just comes down to fundamentals. You have to make those tackles today. This is not a team where you can have 25 missed tackles because then they're breaking 85-yard touchdown runs, 45-yard. It's after they catch. This is just a team where the fundamentals matter more than anything because this is a team that has, for a lack of a better term, the Lions are a team that have the dog in them. When they turn that dog on, they're hard to stop. So, hey, Baylor, it's been fun. We're here. It's prediction time. You've said it numerous times today that you feel that this game is going to be close. Texans like maybe in the victory, maybe a loss. Where are you sitting at? Oh, we can't hear you, Baylor. I think your mic's out.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm gonna go with a 27-24 for the Lions. I do think the Lions are gonna win this one, but it'll be right there. 24-27 for me, Lions.
Okay. It's here. And I haven't done this since the bad stretch, Baylor. It's been weeks since I've predicted something like this. But I do not think today is going to be close. I think that this is a team that plays very well. Like you said, they haven't come off back-to-back losses. And when they turn it on, they turn it on. They're not afraid to score points. I think the Lions win today. I'm going to go 35-17 Detroit.
I really hope you're wrong, but I can see it. Unfortunately, I can see it. I hope you're wrong.
I'm hoping I'm wrong too.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I have not been wrong. I've only gotten
That's
2 games wrong all season.
very practical.
I mean, not to brag on my own record, this is one that I do hope I'm wrong on, though.
Yeah. I hope I'm wrong too. I hope we win as well.
If we win, man, we we don't riot just yet, but it's getting closer.
It's getting close to riot time. We're
If the
getting real close.
we'll have the riot even if we clinch a wild card berth. It doesn't matter anything else. We've been so deprived of competitive football, which we've been blessed with so far for the first time in a long time. We said this last week. It's the first time in a good portion or a good chunk of the last decade outside of our Super Bowl, outside of the Manning era. Those few years of competitive football from 3 competitive years of football. It's been rather grim. So meaningful games being played down the stretch. Man, I hope it's a win. I just don't feel it.
Yeah, I do too. I'll be rooting hard. Should be a fun game to watch though. Prime time.
Yep. No, hey, it's just everything's leading up, man. It's like this is like Buffalo game all over again, though. All of the boxes are checked to why the Broncos should lose, but they didn't in Buffalo. Maybe they don't in Detroit. But with that said, we're going to be primed, pumped, and ready to cheer our heads off for our Denver Broncos. As one of our followers up above said, Denver Broncos for life. We live and die by it. Orange and blue is what we believe in, and let's hope for the win.
Let's do it.
So until next time, Dave will be back running his pregame show next week. I will be with Dave. It'll be the return of Cooking with Gary and presented by Willow Seasonings and Blends. We'll have our Game Day Eats segment on there. We're also looking to bring on someone from our opposition and see if we can get them for a 15-minute segment. So just keep in tune for those updates. If not, Baylor and I, since we subbed in today for the pregame show today on a Saturday, we did not do our traditionally scheduled Friday show. However, we will be back Friday, 7 p.m. next Friday to talk about the Detroit Lions loss to the Denver Broncos, hopefully. And if not,
damn straight.
we will be breaking down why we lost and how do we keep our head on a swivel and turn around and get back in the win column. Friday, 7 p.m. Last little tidbit I have for Colorado Sports Connection before we sign off today. Today is the debut of the Colorado Bucks Soccer Club, our indoor professional soccer team. They will be here tonight. First game. Head over to Colorado Bucks webpage, Facebook, social media. All of the ticket information is going to be there. You could first 75 people in the door will get swag bags, courteous of one of their sponsors, Frank's Barbecue Trading Post up in Loveland. So if you are out there, they are playing at the Field House in Jefferson County.
Foothills
Field House. There it is. And kickoff is 8
o'clock.
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
Yeah, so please check them out. We are so happy to work with them. It's going to be an interesting partnership as we move forward. But that's all we have for Colorado Sports Connection. If you're interested in joining the team, you want to get on the screen, you want to talk Broncos, Nuggets, Avs, Rapids, Bucks, Buffs, wherever you want to go, please reach out to Dave or myself. We'll get you on the screen. We'll get you on the mic, and we're ready for hot takes anytime you got them. Bring them. It's been a pleasure to see everybody today. And Baylor and I will see you next Friday. Talk to you later.
Let's go, Broncos.